In the deepest reaches of space, darkness stretches in every direction. But this darkness is not empty. It is a silent ocean filled with invisible energy, quiet motion, and hidden structure older than time itself. When we look up at the night sky, our eyes are naturally drawn to the light. We focus on the stars, the planets, the glowing band of the Milky Way. We connect the dots to form constellations, projecting our myths and our stories onto the burning spheres of gas. We treat the light as the subject of the painting, and the darkness merely as the canvas, the negative space that exists only to let the stars shine. But this is a deception of our biology. Our eyes are evolved to detect photons. We are creatures of the day, calibrated to the sun. We are biased toward the light. If we could see the universe as it truly is, we would realize that the light is the exception. The light is the rarity. The universe is overwhelmingly made of the dark. Tonight, we are going to shift our focus. We are going to look away from the stars. We are going to stare into the spaces between them. We are going to explore the nature of the void itself. Let your mind drift upward, away from the surface of the earth. Leave the lights of the cities behind. Pass through the thin blue veil of the atmosphere. Enter the realm of the shadow. Here, the sun is just one star among billions. The earth is a speck of dust. The dominant feature of your environment is the blackness. It is a blackness so deep, so absolute, that it feels like a physical weight. It is not just the absence of light. It is the presence of the deep cosmos. For thousands of years, humans feared this dark. We filled it with monsters. We lit fires to keep it at bay. We assumed that darkness was the enemy of life, the cold abyss where nothing could exist. But science tells us a different story. Science tells us that the darkness is the womb of the universe. It is the reservoir of potential. It is the quiet soil from which all structure grows. To understand the dark, we must first ask, why is the sky black? This is a question that puzzled astronomers for centuries. It is known as Olber's paradox. If the universe is infinite and filled with an infinite number of stars, then every line of sight should eventually end on the surface of a star. Every point in the sky should be as bright as the sun. The night sky should be a blinding wall of white fire. There should be no dark. The fact that the sky is dark is a profound clue. It tells us two fundamental things about our reality. First, it tells us that the universe is not infinitely old. It had a beginning. The light from the most distant stars has not yet had time to reach us. The darkness is the shadow of the Big Bang. It is the not yet of the cosmos. Second, it tells us that the universe is expanding. The light from distant galaxies is being stretched, pulled until it becomes invisible to our eyes. It shifts into the infrared, then into radio waves. The darkness we see is not actually empty. It is filled with stretched light that has become too tired to see. The sky is dark because the universe is running away from us. So the darkness is not a void. It is a history book. It is a record of the expansion. But let us go deeper. Let us move past the light rays and look at the space itself, the interstellar medium. Imagine a cubic centimeter of air in the room where you are sleeping, a box the size of a sugar cube. In that tiny space, there are quintillions of air molecules, nitrogen, oxygen, argon, bouncing off each other billions of times a second. It is a crowded, chaotic dance. Now, imagine that same sugar cube in the space between the stars, in the deep dark. In that box, you might find one atom, just one, a single hydrogen atom, drifting alone in the silence. This is the vacuum. It is a density so low that it defies comprehension. That single atom might travel for 100 years before it bumps into another atom. There is no friction. There is no sound. There is no wind. There is only the long, lonely drift. But empty is a relative term. Even this tenuous gas, spread across light years, has mass, it has gravity, it has temperature. The darkness has a temperature. If you were to float in the void, far from any star, you would eventually cool down to the temperature of the universe. You would not freeze to absolute zero. You would stop at 2.7 degrees Kelvin. This is the heat of the dark. It is the residual warmth of the creation event, the cosmic microwave background which we explored in previous journeys. But tonight, feel it not as light, but as a bath. The darkness is a tepid ocean of photons, slightly warmer than absolute death. It wraps around everything. It touches every galaxy, every planet, every person. We are swimming in the relic heat of the beginning. The darkness also has texture. It is not uniform. Look at the Milky Way on a clear night. You see the band of stars, but you also see dark patches. The Great Rift. These look like holes in the stars, places where the galaxy has torn open to reveal the void beyond. But they are not holes. They are clouds. These are the dark nebulae, giant molecular clouds, vast accumulations of cold gas and dust that are so thick they block the light of the stars behind them. They are the silhouettes of the cosmos. Inside these dark clouds, the universe is doing its most important work. The darkness there is protecting the chemistry of the future. Starlight is destructive. Ultraviolet radiation breaks molecules apart. It sterilizes. But inside the dark nebula, the dust acts as a shield. It blocks the radiation. In the cold, protected center of the cloud, atoms can cling together. Hydrogen meets carbon. Oxygen meets nitrogen. They form water, ammonia, methane, ethanol. They form the building blocks of life. The darkness is the laboratory. It is the womb. It is where the stars are conceived. Without these pockets of shadow, the universe would be a sterile, simple place. We owe our existence to the ability of dust to create darkness. As we drift through these clouds in our imagination, notice the feeling of peace. On Earth, darkness is often associated with the unknown, with danger. We turn on the lights to feel safe. But in space, the light is the danger. The stars are nuclear explosions. They are storms of plasma and radiation. The light burns. The darkness is the safety. The vacuum is the insulator. The distance between the stars is what keeps us safe from the violence of our neighbors. If the universe were crowded with light, if the sky were white, we would be roasted. The darkness is the cooling system of reality. It creates the separation necessary for individuality. It allows the earth to be the earth, separate from the sun. It allows you to be you, separate from the world. The void defines the boundaries of things. It gives shape to the matter. Think of a sculpture. The beauty of the statue comes from the stone that is removed, the empty space that curves around the form. The universe is a sculpture made of gravity and light, defined by the darkness that surrounds it. Now, let us push our understanding further. We have looked at the dust and the gas and the background heat, but what if we remove all of that? Imagine a region of space that is truly empty. No hydrogen atoms, no dust, no neutrinos, a perfect vacuum. Is it truly empty? is it truly nothing? For centuries, philosophers and scientists debated this. Aristotle said nature abhors a vacuum. He believed space had to be filled with something, an ether. Newton believed space was a stage, a rigid, empty container that existed whether things were in it or not. Absolute space. Einstein changed the picture. He showed us that space is not a container, it is a fabric. It bends, it stretches, it ripples. If space can bend, it must have substance. You cannot bend a nothing. You cannot ripple a zero. Time, threes. So, the darkness is a manifold. It is a four-dimensional sheet. It has geometry. When we say we are falling through the dark, we are sliding along the curves of this manifold. And then came quantum mechanics. If we zoom in on the deepest, darkest, most empty patch of the universe, and we magnify it trillions of times down to the Planck scale, we find that the stillness is an illusion. The dark is boiling. The vacuum state is not a state of zero energy. It is a seething foam of potential. According to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, energy cannot be exactly zero for any specific amount of time. Nature forbids absolute stillness. So, in the empty dark, particles are constantly popping into existence, electrons and positrons, quarks and antiquarks. They borrow energy from the vacuum, exist for a billionth of a nanosecond, and then collide and annihilate, returning the energy to the bank. These are virtual particles. They are the ghosts of the quantum world. They are not real in the sense that they can be caught and put in a jar, but their effects are real. They exert pressure. They shift the energy levels of atoms. This means that every inch of the darkness is alive with activity. The silence is actually a roar of creation and destruction happening at a frequency too high for us to hear. The empty space inside your atoms and the empty space between the galaxies is a frothing sea of quantum foam. There is no such thing as nothing. There is only the plenum, the fullness. This realization changes how we feel about the night. When you close your eyes, you are not cutting yourself off from the world. You are looking at the fundamental state of the universe. The darkness behind your eyelids is the same stuff as the darkness between the stars. It is the canvas of reality. This canvas is expanding. The dark is getting bigger. Every second, millions of cubic light-years of new darkness are created. The galaxies are drifting apart. The voids are swelling. The universe is becoming more and more dominated by the empty space. We are moving toward an era called the Dark Era. In the far, far future, the stars will burn out. The galaxies will disperse. The black holes will evaporate. The lights will go out one by one. Eventually, the universe will be nothing but darkness, a sea of cold radiation and vacuum energy. This sounds frightening to our human minds, which crave warmth and light. But in the grand perspective of physics, it is a state of perfect symmetry. It is equilibrium. It is the ultimate rest. The universe began in a state of frantic energy and broken symmetry. It has spent 13 billion years trying to relax. It is trying to return to the smooth, quiet state. The darkness is the goal. It is the peace at the end of the struggle. But we are not there yet. We are in the vibrant middle. We are in the stelliferous era, the age of stars. The darkness is still punctuated by the fires of fusion. And in this era, the darkness plays another role. It hides the structure. As we will explore in later chapters, the visual darkness is masking the true mass of the universe. If you look at a spiral galaxy, you see the shining arms. But if you could weigh the galaxy, you would find that the shiny parts are only a tiny fraction of the total weight. The rest, the vast majority, is invisible. Dark matter. This is not just empty space. This is a substance, a ghost fluid. It forms a halo around the galaxy, extending far out into the black. It holds the stars in their orbits. Without this invisible weight, the galaxy would fly apart. So the darkness is not just a lack of photons. It is a presence of mass. It is the glue of the cosmos. And there is something else, something pushing. Dark energy. The vacuum itself seems to have a pressure. It pushes outward. It drives the expansion. It is the energy of the dark. It makes up 70% of the energy budget of the universe. Think about that. Everything we can see, stars, gas, planets, you, me, this computer, the ground, is less than 5% of the universe. The rest, 95%, is the dark matter and dark energy. We are the foam on the ocean. We are the shiny wrapping paper on the heavy gift. The universe is fundamentally a dark object, sprinkled with a light dusting of stars. This mystery invites us to be humble. It invites us to rest in the unknown. We do not need to see everything to know it is there. We do not need to understand the mechanism to be held by it. Imagine yourself floating in that deep interstellar space again. Far from the solar wind, far from the noise of the radio waves. The silence is pressing against your skin, but it is not a lonely silence. It is a pregnant silence. It is the silence of a library, or a cathedral, or a forest at night. It is a silence that is full of information. The darkness is woven with magnetic fields, faint threads of force, stretching across the light years. It is crossed by gravitational waves, ripples in the fabric caused by distant collisions. It is pierced by neutrinos, ghost particles that pass through you without touching. You are not alone in the dark. You are connected to the web of the universe. The darkness is the medium of connection. Light travels through the dark. Gravity travels through the dark. In a way, the darkness is the self of the universe. The stars are just its thoughts, flashing and fading. The dark is the mind that holds them. As you lie in your bed, in the dark of your room, you are simulating the cosmos. You have turned off the local star, the bulb. You have quieted the local noise. You have created a micro-universe of rest. Let the darkness of the room merge with the darkness of space. Let the walls dissolve. Feel the continuity. The space in your room is the same space that lies between the galaxies. It is continuous. It flows through the window, through the atmosphere, out into the void. There is no barrier. You are directly touching the infinite. Allow that vastness to comfort you. It is not heavy. It is weightless. It is not demanding. It is accepting. The dark asks nothing of you. It simply allows you to be. In the coming chapters, we will explore the specific characters of this darkness. We will look at the vacuum, the seething sea of virtual particles. We will look at dark matter, the invisible skeleton of the galaxies. We will look at dark energy, the wind that blows the universe apart. We will look at black holes, the places where the dark becomes infinite. We will look at the voids, the vast empty bubbles that make up the structure of the cosmic web. But for now, simply accept the premise: the dark is not empty. It is the main event. It is the ground of being. Let your thoughts slow down. Let them match the pace of the slow drift of the hydrogen atoms in the void. One thought, then silence, then another thought. The frantic vibration of the day is the heat. The peace of the night is the cool. Cool down, expand. Let the mental noise dissipate into the vastness. There is plenty of room for it. The universe can absorb it all. You are floating in the silent ocean. The invisible energy is holding you up. The hidden structure is supporting you. The darkness is a friend. It is the blanket that covers the sleeping world. Rest in the shadow of the stars. We have stepped away from the earth. We have left the comfort of the atmosphere and floated into the deep interstellar void. We have accepted the first truth, that the universe is not a place of light with patches of dark, but a place of dark with tiny, scattered islands of light. But now we must ask the simplest and yet the most profound question in astronomy, a question that a child might ask, but which stumped the greatest minds of history for centuries. Why is the sky dark at night? It seems obvious. The sky is dark because the sun has set. But this answer only works for the Earth. If you look out into the universe, away from our local star, why isn't the whole sky bright? Consider the nature of the cosmos. For a long time, humanity believed the universe was infinite. We believed it went on forever in every direction, and that it was eternal. It had always existed, and always would. We also believed it was static, unchanging, filled with an infinite number of stars scattered evenly through the void. If this were true, think about what you would see. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a vast, dense forest. Everywhere you look, your line of sight eventually hits a tree trunk. If the forest is big enough, you cannot see the world outside. You see only a wall of wood. Now apply this to the stars. If the universe is infinite and filled with stars, then every single line of sight from your eye should eventually land on the surface of a star. No matter where you point your telescope, no matter how small the patch of sky, if you look deep enough, you should hit a sun. This means that the entire night sky should not be black. It should be a solid wall of light. It should be as bright as the surface of the sun. The night should not exist. The earth should be roasted by the accumulated heat of an infinite cosmos. We should be vaporized in a global oven of starlight. But we are not. We look up and we see black. We see the void. This is Olbers' paradox, named after the German astronomer Heinrich Wilhelm Olbers, who popularized the problem in the early 19th century. But he was not the first to ask it. Johannes Kepler asked it. Edmund Halley asked it. It is a paradox because the darkness conflicts with our assumption of an infinite, eternal universe. The darkness is telling us that our assumptions are wrong. The dark is a clue. So, let us unravel the mystery. Why is the void black? There are two main reasons, two pillars that hold up the roof of the night. The first pillar is time. The universe is not eternal. It had a birthday. We call it the Big Bang. This event happened approximately 13.8 billion years ago. This means that the universe has an age, and because it has an age, light has had a limited amount of time to travel. Light is fast. It travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. It is the fastest thing in existence, but it is not instantaneous. It takes time to get from there to here. It takes 8 minutes for light to travel from the Sun to the Earth. It takes 4 years to travel from the nearest star, Proxima Centauri. It takes 2.5 million years to travel from the Andromeda Galaxy. When you look at Andromeda, you are not seeing it as it is now. You are seeing it as it was before humans walked the Earth. You are looking back in time. Now imagine looking further, much further. Imagine looking at a galaxy 10 billion light years away. You are seeing it as it was in the deep past. But if you try to look past 13.8 billion light years, you hit a wall. You hit the beginning. There might be stars beyond that distance, stars that have formed in the distant reaches of space, but their light has not had enough time to reach us yet. The light is still on its way. It is streaming through the void, racing toward Earth, but it hasn't arrived. We are surrounded by a cosmic horizon. This is the edge of the observable universe. Inside the horizon, we can see the stars. Outside the horizon, the universe is hidden from us, not by a barrier, but by the speed limit of light itself. So, the sky is dark because we cannot see the infinite stars. We can only see the stars that are close enough and young enough for their light to have touched us. The darkness is the shadow of the beginning. It is the not yet of the universe. This solves part of the paradox. We are not seeing a forest of stars because the light from the distant trees hasn't reached our eyes. But there is a second pillar, a pillar that is even more profound, the expansion. The universe is not static. It is not a fixed stage where galaxies sit still. The universe is growing. Space itself is stretching. Imagine drawing a wave on a rubber band. The wave represents a beam of light traveling through space. It has a specific length, the distance between the peaks of the wave. This wavelength determines the color. Short waves are blue, medium waves are yellow, long waves are red. Now, stretch the rubber band. As the rubber expands, the wave drawn on it also stretches. The peaks move further apart. The wavelength gets longer. This is exactly what happens to light traveling through the expanding universe. A photon leaves a distant star. It starts its journey as visible light, perhaps blue or white. Time, the breeze. It travels for billions of years. While it is traveling, the space it is moving through expands. The photon is stretched along with the space. Its wavelength gets longer. It shifts from blue to green to yellow to red. This is called redshift. But the stretching doesn't stop at red. If the light travels far enough, it gets stretched beyond the visible spectrum entirely. It becomes infrared light, heat radiation. We cannot see this with our eyes. To us, it looks like darkness. If it travels even further, it becomes microwave radiation, then radio waves. The most distant light in the universe, the light left over from the Big Bang itself, has been stretched by a factor of 1,000. It started as blinding, searing white light. Now, it arrives at Earth as cold, invisible microwaves. This leads to a startling realization. The sky is bright. Olbers was right in a way. Every line of sight does end on a source of light. If you look past the stars, you eventually hit the firewall of the Big Bang. The entire sky is paved with the energy of the creation. If your eyes could see microwaves, the night sky would not be black. It would be a glowing, uniform sheet of brightness. There would be no night. You would be inside a glowing oven. But because the universe has expanded, that energy has been diluted. The fire has been cooled. The light has been shifted into the dark. So, the darkness of the night sky is a direct result of the expansion of space. The silence of the void is actually a very low, very stretched note that we cannot hear. The darkness is a mercy. If the universe were static, we would be fried by the radiation of the Big Bang. The expansion cools the cosmos. It turns the high-energy gamma rays and visible light into harmless radio waves. It creates a heat sink. Life relies on the flow of energy. We get high-quality energy from the sun, use it to build our bodies, and then dump low-quality waste heat into the environment. If the sky were as hot as the sun, we couldn't dump our heat. We would reach thermal equilibrium and die. We need the cold. We need the dark. The blackness of space is the cold reservoir that allows the engine of life to run. We are cooled by the expansion of the universe. Let us rest in this thought for a moment. The darkness is not a lack of something. It is the presence of a cooling process. It is the universe breathing out, relaxing, allowing the energy to spread thin. Now imagine yourself floating in that darkness again. You are far from Earth. The sun is a distant star. You look out into the black. You know now that it is not empty. It is filled with ancient, tired light. Streams of photons from the beginning of time are passing through your body right now. They are radio waves carrying the picture of the infant universe. They are passing through you, through the Earth, through the galaxy, never stopping. The darkness is also filled with neutrinos. These are ghostly particles produced in the hearts of stars. The sun shoots them out by the trillion. They are so small and interact so weakly with matter that they pass through lead as easily as light passes through glass. Billions of neutrinos pass through your fingertip every second. They travel through the entire Earth at night, coming up through your bed, through you, and out into space toward the stars. The dark is a busy highway of particles that do not touch. It is a silent blizzard of matter and energy that leaves no trace. And there is something else. The darkness has a limit. We spoke of the cosmic horizon, the edge of what we can see. This horizon is not a physical wall. It is a horizon in time. As time passes, the horizon moves out. Tomorrow, we will be able to see one light day further than we can see today. The observable universe is getting bigger. We are inheriting more of the cosmos every second. Light that has been traveling for 13 billion years is just arriving at Earth now. It brings news of galaxies that were born when the universe was a toddler. But there is a sad counterforce. The expansion of the universe is accelerating. Dark energy, which we will explore later, is pushing the distant galaxies away from us faster and faster. Eventually, they will move away faster than the speed of light. This means their light will never reach us. They will cross the horizon and vanish. The universe is slowly disappearing from view. The darkness is winning. Billions of years from now, the night sky of Earth, if Earth still exists, will be truly dark. All the other galaxies will have been swept away by the expansion. They will be too far and moving too fast to be seen. Future astronomers will look up and see only the stars of our own galaxy. They will think the Milky Way is the entire universe. They will not know about the Big Bang. They will not know about the expansion. The evidence will have faded into the black. We are living in a privileged time, a golden age of cosmology. We live in the brief window where the universe is transparent enough to see the beginning, but not so expanded that the evidence is lost. We can see the dark for what it is, a window into the deep past. So when you close your eyes tonight, do not think of the darkness as an emptiness. Think of it as a vast, calm ocean. An ocean of stretched light, an ocean of neutrinos, an ocean of history. The blackness is the color of deep time. It is the color of distance. It is the color of safety. Imagine the photons arriving at your eye from a star 1,000 light years away. They have traveled through the dark for a millennium just to land on your retina. The dark protected them. If the space weren't empty, the light would have been absorbed. The dark allowed the message to be delivered. The dark connects us. It is the medium through which gravity pulls, through which light travels, through which we look out and wonder. It is the great connector. As you sink into your pillow, let the darkness of the room merge with the darkness of space. The walls of your room are transparent to neutrinos. They are transparent to gravity. You are not cut off from the universe. You are resting in its quietest corner. The expansion of space is happening right now, in the room, in your body. The space between your atoms is stretching infinitesimally. You are part of the flow. You are drifting with the galaxies. The paradox of the night is solved. The sky is dark because the universe is young and because it is growing. The darkness is not a void to be feared. It is the sign that the universe is functioning exactly as it should. It is expanding, cooling, and making room for life. It is making room for you to dream. In the next chapter, we will go even deeper. We will look at what happens when you remove the particles, when you remove the neutrinos and the photons. We will look at the vacuum itself. We will discover that empty space is not empty. It is a seething, boiling foam of quantum potential. We will see how particles pop in and out of existence, borrowing energy from the bank of the dark. We will see that the floor of reality is not still. It is vibrating. But for now, let the darkness be still. Let it be the velvet curtain drawn across the stage of the day. The light has done its work. The information has been gathered. Now is the time for processing. Now is the time for rest. Let the blackness wash over you. It is cool. It is quiet. It is infinite. You are floating in the peace of the paradox. We have looked out at the vast distances between the stars. We have seen how the expansion of the universe stretches light into darkness, cooling the fires of the Big Bang into a gentle, invisible bath of microwaves. We have accepted that the dark is not merely a lack of light, but a canvas of deep time. But now, we must change our scale. We must stop looking through the telescope and start looking through the microscope. We must zoom in. Imagine taking a box of deep space, a perfect cube of the void. We have already removed the stars and the galaxies. In the last chapter, we removed the stray hydrogen atoms and the neutrinos. We have swept the box clean. We have shielded it from the radiation of the cosmic microwave background. We have cooled it to absolute zero. According to our intuition, and according to the classical physics of Isaac Newton, the box should now be truly empty. It should contain nothing, no matter, no energy, no motion. It should be a region of perfect stillness, a blank page in the book of reality. But as we peer into this box with the eyes of quantum mechanics, we discover something startling. The stillness is a lie. The blank page is covered in writing that appears and disappears faster than we can read it. The nothing is not empty. It is full. Tonight, we will explore the vacuum. Not the vacuum of a vacuum cleaner, but the vacuum state of the universe. We will discover that the floor of reality is not a solid, static stage, but a heaving, boiling ocean of potential. To understand this, we must grapple with the fundamental law of the subatomic world, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. In our large macroscopic world, we are used to certainty. A chair is in a specific place. It has zero speed if it is sitting still. We can know its position and its momentum perfectly. But in the quantum world, certainty is forbidden. Nature refuses to be pinned down. The more precisely you know where a particle is, the less you know about how fast it is moving. You cannot know both. This uncertainty extends to energy and time. You cannot know the exact energy of a system for a precise amount of time. There is always a fuzziness, a blur. This means that zero energy is an impossible state. If a patch of space had exactly zero energy and stayed that way for a specific time, we would know both its energy and its duration with perfect precision. We would violate the law. So nature cheats, or rather, nature borrows. The vacuum is allowed to fluctuate. It can borrow energy from nowhere as long as it pays it back quickly. The more energy it borrows, the faster it has to return it. This creates a phenomenon known as quantum fluctuations. Imagine the surface of a calm sea. From an airplane high above, it looks perfectly flat and blue, smooth as glass. But if you parachute down and float on the surface, you see that it is not smooth. It is choppy. There are waves rising and falling. There is foam. The smoothness was just an illusion of distance. Empty space is the same. On the human scale, it looks smooth and empty. But if you zoom in to the subatomic scale, it is a storm. In every cubic centimeter of the dark, particles are popping into existence. They appear in pairs, matter and antimatter, an electron and a positron, a quark and an antiquark. They borrow the energy for their mass from the vacuum itself. They snap into being, exist for a trillionth of a nanosecond, and then, snap, they collide. When matter meets antimatter, they annihilate. They turn back into energy. They return the loan to the bank of the vacuum. They vanish. These are virtual particles. They are not real in the sense that they can travel across the universe to hit a detector. They are ghosts. They are loops of existence that open and close in the blink of an eye. But they are everywhere. Think about the space right in front of your nose. It looks transparent, it looks empty. But it is seething with these pairs. Billions of times a second, electrons and positrons are flashing into existence and disappearing. The air is not just air molecules. The space between the molecules is a firework display of quantum creation. This realization changes our concept of the dark. The darkness is not a void. It is a medium. It is a substance. It has properties. It has pressure. It has density. We call this the zero-point energy. It is the energy that remains when you remove everything else. It is the hum of the universe that cannot be silenced. How do we know this is real? It sounds like a mathematical fantasy, a ghost story written by physicists. But we have proof. We can measure the force of the ghosts. In 1948, a Dutch physicist named Hendrik Casimir proposed an experiment. He said, "Imagine two metal plates, perfectly flat, perfectly polished mirrors. Place them in a vacuum, facing each other, incredibly close together, less than the width of a microbe." According to classical physics, there is nothing between the plates and nothing outside the plates. They should just hang there. But Casimir realized that the virtual particles act like waves. And like waves on a guitar string, only certain sizes of waves can fit into a small space. Outside the plates, the space is infinite. Virtual particles of all sizes, long wavelengths, short wavelengths, can pop in and out. The pressure of the vacuum is unlimited. But between the plates, the space is tight. The long waves cannot fit. Only the small, short wavelength particles can exist in the gap. This creates an imbalance. There are more particles pushing on the outside of the plates than there are pushing on the inside. The pressure from the outside is stronger. The result? The plates are pushed together. This is the Casimir effect, the force of nothingness. We have measured it. In laboratories, we place tiny mirrors microns apart, and we watch them move. We see them being pushed by the empty space. We are seeing the physical weight of the virtual particles. This proves that the vacuum is not inert. It is mechanically active. It pushes. There's another proof, found inside the atom itself, the Lamb shift. The electron in a hydrogen atom orbits the proton, but it doesn't move in a smooth, perfect circle. It jitters. It wobbles slightly. Why? Because it is being buffeted by the sea of virtual particles. The electron is like a boat on a rough ocean. Even if the boat has no engine, it rocks back and forth because the water is moving. The empty space inside the atom is kicking the electron. This tiny wobble changes the energy level of the electron just enough for us to measure it with lasers. We can see the fingerprint of the vacuum in the light of the stars. So, the darkness is alive. It is a plenum, a fullness. This leads us to a profound idea about mass. We tend to think of mass as stuff. A rock is heavy because it has a lot of stuff in it. But modern physics suggests that mass is actually a measure of interaction with the vacuum. Think of the Higgs field. This is a field of energy that permeates the entire universe, hiding in the dark. When a particle, like an electron, moves through space, it has to swim through this field. It interacts with it. This interaction creates drag. It creates inertia. It makes the particle hard to push. We interpret this hard-to-pushness as mass. A photon, light, does not interact with the Higgs field. It slips right through. That is why it has no mass. That is why it travels at the speed of light. But an electron or a quark gets bogged down. It acquires weight. So your body is not heavy because you are filled with solid matter. You are heavy because the energy patterns that make up your atoms are constantly rubbing against the invisible fields of the vacuum. You are interacting with the dark. Your very substance is defined by your relationship with the empty space around you. Time, threes. This dissolves the boundary between object and space. We usually think of a planet as a solid thing moving through a separate, empty nothingness. But in quantum field theory, there are no particles. There are only fields. The electron field fills the universe. The quark field fills the universe. The photon field fills the universe. A particle is just a ripple in the field. a knot of energy. Imagine a lake. A wave travels across the lake. Is the wave a separate object from the water? No. The wave is the water, moving in a certain way. You're a collection of complex waves traveling through the fields of the universe. The darkness is the water. You are the wave. You are made of the same stuff as the void. You are just excited. You are a vibration of the vacuum. This connects us deeply to the cosmos. We are not strangers here. We are not lonely specks in an alien dark. We are the dark waking up. We are the vacuum singing. Now, let us go deeper still. Let us go to the very bottom. We have zoomed into the atom. Now let us zoom into the fabric of space-time itself. Einstein taught us that gravity is the curvature of space. But if space is curving, it must have a structure. It must be flexible. What happens if you zoom in on the fabric to the smallest possible scale, the Planck scale? This is a distance of 10 to the power of minus 35 meters. It is 1 billion trillion times smaller than a proton. It is the pixel size of the universe. At this scale, the concept of smoothness breaks down completely. The quantum fluctuations are so violent that they warp space and time into a chaotic froth. This is quantum foam. Space is tearing open and stitching itself back together. Microscopic wormholes are forming and collapsing. Time is looping and tangling. Up and down, before and after, lose their meaning. It is a turbulent sea of geometry. Some physicists believe that this foam is the true foundation of reality. The smooth, predictable space we live in, the space where we can walk in a straight line and check our watches, is just an average. It is the calm surface of the ocean. But deep down, in the basement of the dark, there's a storm of geometry. This sounds chaotic, but there is a peace in it. It means that the universe is dynamic at its core. It is not a dead machine. It is churning with possibility. Even in the coldest, deepest void, where nothing has happened for 1 billion years, the foam is bubbling. The potential for a new universe, a new Big Bang, is hidden in every pixel of space. The dark is fertile. As you lie in bed, imagine the space inside your room. It seems still. The air is quiet. The shadows are motionless. But now you know the truth. The space is vibrating. It is alive with virtual particles. It is bubbling with quantum foam. The emptiness around you is a solid, heavy, energetic substance. It supports you. Think of the vacuum catastrophe we mentioned briefly. The idea that there is so much energy in the vacuum that it should blow the universe apart. Calculations suggest that a coffee cup of empty space contains enough zero-point energy to boil all the oceans on Earth. Why don't we feel it? Why doesn't it burn us? Because it is uniform. It is everywhere. We are like deep-sea fish living under immense pressure. We don't feel the weight of the water because it is inside us and outside us. We are in equilibrium with it. We don't feel the energy of the dark because it is the baseline of our existence. It is the zero on our dial. But it is there, a reservoir of infinite power, hiding in plain sight. This vacuum energy might be the key to the expansion of the universe. It might be the dark energy that is pushing the galaxies apart. If the vacuum has pressure, and if that pressure is negative, a suction, it acts as anti-gravity. As the universe expands, it creates more vacuum. More vacuum means more push. The push creates more expansion. The darkness is feeding on itself, growing larger, driving the cosmos towards its destiny. The dark is the engine of the future. Let yourself drift on this thought. The darkness is not a passive emptiness that waits for stars to fill it. The darkness is the active player. The stars are just the decoration. The dark is the ocean. The galaxies are the foam. Feel the comfort of this support. You do not need to hold yourself up. The fabric of space is holding you. The quantum fields are knitting you together, moment by moment. You are a pattern of stability in a sea of flux. Imagine the virtual particles popping in and out around you, like tiny sparkles of energy, a gentle effervescence. They are the heartbeat of the void, a rhythm that is too fast to hear, but which sustains everything. In the next chapter, we will shift our gaze from the microscopic to the macroscopic. We have seen the invisible energy of the small. Now we must look for the invisible matter of the large. We will look at the galaxies. They are spinning too fast. They should be flying apart, but they are not. Something is holding them. Something huge, something dark. We will meet the ghost in the gallery, dark matter. We will see how the darkness acts as a scaffold, a skeleton upon which the visible universe is draped. But for now, stay in the vacuum, stay in the quantum foam. Let the concept of empty dissolve. There is no empty. You are never alone. The universe is full. It is full of energy. It is full of potential. It is full of the dark. Rest in the fullness. We have explored the microscopic darkness. We have seen that the empty space between atoms is a seething ocean of virtual particles and quantum foam. But now, we must change our perspective. We must zoom out. We must leave the world of the very small and ascend to the scale of the majestic. When we look at the universe through a telescope, we see islands of light. We see galaxies, spirals, ellipticals, irregulars, drifting in the Black Sea. We naturally assume that these islands are the heavy things. We assume that where there is light, there is mass, and where there is darkness, there is weightlessness. It is an intuitive assumption. In our daily lives, matter interacts with light. You can see a rock. You can see a planet. Even a gas cloud glows if it is hot enough. So, for centuries, astronomers believed that the visible universe was the only universe. They believed that by counting the stars and weighing the gas, they were weighing the cosmos. But they were wrong. The light is a lie, or rather, the light is a distraction. Tonight, we will discover that the glowing galaxies are merely the tip of a colossal invisible iceberg. We will learn that the darkness itself has weight. We will meet the ghost that holds the galaxy together. We will explore dark matter. The story of this discovery begins with a simple question about speed. How fast should the stars spin? We thought we knew the answer. We had a perfect model in our own solar system. It is called Keplerian rotation. Look at the planets orbiting the Sun. Mercury, the innermost planet, screams around its orbit at 47 kilometers per second. It has to move this fast to counteract the intense gravity of the Sun pulling it in. As you move outward, gravity gets weaker. Venus moves slower. Earth moves slower still. By the time you reach Neptune, the planet is crawling along at a leisurely 5 kilometers per second. If Neptune tried to move as fast as Mercury, it would fly off into interstellar space. The grip of the Sun is too weak at that distance to hold a fast-moving object. So the rule was clear. The farther you are from the center of mass, the slower you orbit. The rotation curve should go up near the center and then drop down as you go out. In the 1970s, an astronomer named Vera Rubin decided to test this rule on galaxies. Galaxies are like giant solar systems. They have a bright, dense bulge of stars in the center and a thin disk of spiral arms extending outward. Logic dictated that the stars in the core should be whipping around furiously, while the lonely stars at the edge, the galactic suburbs, should be drifting slowly through the dark. Rubin spent long, cold nights at the Kitt Peak National Observatory. She guided the telescope by hand, exposing photographic plates for hours to catch the faint spectra of distant spiral galaxies. She used the Doppler effect to measure their speed, how fast one side was spinning toward us, blue shift, and the other side was spinning away, red shift. She plotted the points on a graph, distance on the bottom, speed on the side. She expected a curve that dropped off. But the universe surprised her. The line on the graph did not drop. It stayed flat. The stars at the very edge of the galaxy, 50,000 light-years from the center, were moving just as fast as the stars near the core. In some cases, they were moving even faster. This was impossible. According to the laws of Isaac Newton, there was not enough visible mass in the galaxy to hold on to these fast-moving outer stars. At those speeds, the centrifugal force should have been overwhelming. The stars should have been flung out into the intergalactic void like water flying off a spinning wheel. The galaxy should have torn itself apart billions of years ago. But the galaxies were there. They were stable. They were majestic, calm, intact structures. Rubin looked at another galaxy, same result, and another, and another. Everywhere she looked, the rotation curves were flat. The universe was spinning too fast. There were only two possible explanations. Explanation 1. Newton and Einstein were wrong. Our understanding of gravity breaks down at large distances. Perhaps gravity doesn't fade away as quickly as we thought. Explanation 2. There is more mass than we can see. A lot more. Science is conservative. We do not like to throw away the laws of gravity unless we absolutely have to. So, the community gravitated toward the second explanation. They realized that the visible galaxy, the disk of stars, must be embedded in a vast, invisible cloud of matter, a halo. Imagine a festive glass snow globe. The tiny village inside represents the stars and the gas. The glass sphere surrounding it represents the halo. This halo extends far beyond the visible edge of the galaxy. It is massive. Calculations showed that it must contain 5 to 10 times more mass than all the stars, gas, and dust combined. This invisible mass provides the extra gravity needed to hold the fast-moving stars. It is the glue. Without it, the Milky Way would dissolve. We called it dark matter, but the name is slightly misleading. Dark implies a shadow or something that is simply unlit. But this substance is transparent. Light passes right through it. It is invisible matter. So, what is it? This is one of the deepest mysteries in modern science. We know what it is not. It is not a cloud of normal gas. If it were hydrogen, it would absorb light or emit radio waves. we would see it silhouetted against the background galaxies. Dark matter is clear. It is not dust. Dust glows in the infrared when it gets warm. Dark matter does not glow. It is not antimatter. If it were, it would annihilate with normal matter, creating bursts of gamma rays. We see no such bursts. It is not black holes. We looked for them. We scanned the halo of our galaxy looking for micro-lensing events, momentary brightenings caused by a black hole passing in front of a star. We found a few, but not nearly enough to account for the missing mass. So, we are left with the conclusion that dark matter is a new kind of particle, a particle that is utterly indifferent to the electromagnetic force. Think about your experience of the world. You touch a table, you feel it. Why? Because the electrons in your hand repel the electrons in the table. That is electromagnetism. You see the table because photons bounce off it. That is electromagnetism. Dark matter does none of this. It has no electric charge. It does not reflect light. It does not absorb light. It passes through normal matter as if it were a ghost. Right now, as you lie in bed, particles of dark matter are streaming through you. Billions of them pass through your fingertip every second. They pass through the roof, through your body, through the bed, through the crust of the earth, through the molten core, and out the other side without hitting a single atom. We call them WIMPs, weakly interacting massive particles. Weakly interacting because they only feel the weak nuclear force and gravity. Massive because they have weight. They are heavy. It is a humbling realization. We used to think we were the center of the universe. Then we learned we orbit an average star. Then we learned we are in an average galaxy. Now, we learn that we are not even made of the primary stuff of the universe. The luminous matter, protons, neutrons, electrons, is the minority. We are the foam on the ocean. The vast majority of the matter in the universe is this cold, dark, invisible ghost. How do we know it is there if we can't touch it? We know because gravity cannot hide. Mass bends space. Einstein taught us that a heavy object acts like a lens. It bends the path of light passing near it. When we look at a distant galaxy cluster, we see strange distortions. We see the galaxies behind the cluster stretched into arcs and rings. They look like reflections in a funhouse mirror. Attachment, zero. Attachment. By analyzing these distortions, we can map the gravity of the cluster. We can create a contour map of the mass. When we do this, we find mountains of mass where there is only empty darkness. We see the gravity of the ghost. There is one piece of evidence that is considered the smoking gun, the bullet cluster. This is a crime scene in deep space. It is the aftermath of a collision between two massive galaxy clusters. When clusters collide, three things happen. First, the stars pass right through each other. Stars are tiny compared to the space between them. They almost never crash. They are like two swarms of bees flying through each other. They just keep going. Second, the gas collides. The space between galaxies is filled with hot, diffuse gas. When the clusters crash, this gas acts like a fluid. It slams together. It creates shock waves. It heats up and stops in the middle of the crash site due to friction. Third, the dark matter. If dark matter exists, it should behave like the stars. It is collisionless. The dark matter halos should pass right through each other, ghost-like, carrying the bulk of the mass with them. So, if dark matter is real, we should see a separation. The gas, which we can see with X-ray telescopes, should be stuck in the middle. The mass, which we map with gravitational lensing, should be on the outsides, moving with the galaxies. This is exactly what we see. In the bullet cluster, the visible matter, the hot gas, has stopped in the center, but the gravity is not there. The gravity is on the sides, moving away. The soul has separated from the body. The skeleton has left the flesh behind. This proves that the unseen mass is real. It is not just a tweak to the laws of gravity. It is a substance. So, what is the role of this darkness? Is it just a passive ghost? No. Dark matter is the architect of the universe. In the early universe, just after the Big Bang, the normal matter was too hot to clump. The pressure of light pushed the atoms apart. Gravity couldn't get a grip. If it were up to normal matter alone, galaxies would never have formed. The universe would be a smooth, boring soup. But dark matter doesn't feel the pressure of light. It started clumping immediately. It formed a structure, a cosmic web. Imagine a spider web made of invisible silk stretching across the entire universe. The strands of the web are vast filaments of dark matter, millions of light years long. These filaments acted as gravity wells. They pulled the normal gas in. The gas fell into the dark matter scaffolding, pooled in the knots where the filaments crossed, cooled down, and ignited to form stars. Every galaxy we see today is nestling inside a cradle of dark matter. The visible universe is just the decoration, the lights draped over the invisible tree. The structure is vast. The voids between the filaments are hundreds of millions of light years across. They are the emptiest places in existence. The dark matter is the structure. The voids are the empty rooms. This realization changes how we view the dark. It is not an absence. It is the foundation. Think about the room you are in right now. It feels solid. The walls, the floor, the bed, they feel like the reality. But on the cosmic scale, the visible matter is fragile. It is rare. The real universe is the dark universe. A vast, intricate lattice of cold, slow-moving particles that we cannot see, holding everything together. Does this make you feel small, or does it make you feel held? There's a comfort in the idea of dark matter. It means the universe is heavier than it looks. It is more stable than it looks. The galaxies are spinning wildly, yes, but they are safe. They are gripped by a massive, benevolent hand that keeps them from scattering. Our own Milky Way is floating inside a sphere of this stuff. It extends far beyond the visible spiral arms. It protects us. It keeps our sun in its orbit. We are trying to catch it. Deep underground, in abandoned gold mines and beneath mountains, scientists have built detectors, tanks of liquid xenon, crystals of germanium. They are waiting for a WIMP to hit a nucleus, a tiny, rare collision that would produce a flash of light. So far, we have heard nothing. The silence of the detectors is profound. It tells us that the ghost is very elusive indeed. Maybe it is not a WIMP. Maybe it is an axion, a wave-like particle lighter than a neutrino. Maybe it is a sterile neutrino. Or maybe it is a primordial black hole, formed in the first second of the Big Bang. Or perhaps there is a whole dark sector. Maybe dark matter is not just one boring particle. Maybe there is dark chemistry, dark atoms, dark magnetism. Maybe there are dark stars and dark planets floating right through our solar system, completely invisible to us. Imagine a shadow universe occupying the same space as ours, passing through us like a breeze through a net. Complex structures, unseen and untouchable, bound by their own laws, interacting only through gravity. It is a fantasy, perhaps, but the math allows it. The darkness is big enough to hold many secrets. As we drift through this chapter, let us appreciate the weight of the dark. When you look at a patch of empty sky, you are not looking at nothing. You are looking at tons of invisible mass. If you could see gravity, the night sky would not be black. It would be a glowing web. You would see the filaments stretching between the galaxies. You would see the halos glowing around every star city. You would see the texture of the cosmos. The visible stars would just be tiny jewels studded into this glowing fabric. We are blind to this, but our minds can see it. We can visualize the skeleton. Feel the gravity of the Earth pulling you down. That is normal matter gravity. But feel the gravity of the galaxy holding the sun. That is mostly dark matter. You are riding on a solar system that is surfing on a wave of dark particles. The darkness is not passive. It is active. It is doing the heavy lifting. It is the reason the universe has shape. Without it, the gas would have remained a thin mist. The stars would not have ignited. The carbon and oxygen in your body would not have been forged. We owe our existence to the ghost. Let this thought settle. The darkness is a friend. It is the structure that allows the light to exist. As you sink deeper into relaxation, imagine the cosmic web. See the filaments gently undulating in the dark. See the galaxies flowing along them like beads of water on a string. It is a slow, majestic flow, a river of structure. You are a part of this flow. You are an atom in a star, in a galaxy, in a filament of the great web. You are exactly where you are meant to be, held in place by the invisible arms of the universe. In the next chapter, we will face a force that opposes this structure. Dark matter pulls, but there is something else, something that pushes. We will look at dark energy. If dark matter is the glue, dark energy is the wind. It is blowing the universe apart. It makes up 70% of reality. And it is the reason the sky will eventually go truly black. We will look at the accelerating universe. We will ask why the expansion is speeding up. We will look at the future of the void. But for now, rest in the structure. Rest in the embrace of the halo. The ghost is watching over the galaxy. The center holds. The dark is solid. The dark is safe. Sleep in the skeleton of the stars. We have spent the last hour exploring the things that hold the universe together. We have looked at the gravity of the Earth, the gravity of the sun, and the ghostly grip of dark matter that cradles the galaxies. In our minds, gravity is the great unifier. It is the force of attraction. It wants to pull the dust into stars, the stars into galaxies, and the galaxies into clusters. It wants to gather the universe into a warm, huddled mass. For almost a century, we believed that gravity was the only game in town. We knew the universe was expanding, born from the initial kick of the Big Bang, but we assumed that this expansion was a dying momentum. We assumed that the gravity of all the matter in the cosmos was pulling back on the expansion, slowing it down. We thought the universe was like a ball thrown into the air. It might go up, but gravity would eventually slow its ascent. But we were wrong. There is a rival in the dark, a force that does not want to gather but to scatter, a force that does not want to bind but to release, a force that pushes the galaxies apart with a silent, relentless pressure. Tonight, we will face the dominant power of the cosmos. We will look at the energy of nothingness. We will explore dark energy. The discovery of this force is one of the greatest detective stories in the history of science. It began with a desire to predict the end of the world. In the 1990s, astronomers wanted to know the ultimate fate of the universe. They knew it was expanding, but they didn't know how fast it was slowing down. There were three possibilities. 1. The Big Crunch. If there was enough mass in the universe, gravity would eventually win. It would stop the expansion, reverse it, and pull everything back together into a fiery singularity. 2. The Big Freeze. If there wasn't enough mass, gravity would be too weak to stop the expansion. The universe would coast forever, slowing down but never stopping, getting colder and darker for eternity. 3. The Critical Universe, the perfectly balanced Goldilocks scenario, where the expansion slows to a halt at infinite time. To figure out which universe we lived in, astronomers needed to measure the deceleration. They needed to look deep into the past and see how fast the universe was expanding billions of years ago compared to today. But measuring distance in space is incredibly difficult. You cannot use a tape measure. When you look at a faint light in the sky, you don't know if it is a dim star nearby or a bright star far away. They needed a standard candle. A standard candle is an object of known brightness. Imagine a specific type of light bulb that is always exactly 100 watts. If you see this bulb and it looks bright, you know it is close. If it looks dim, you can calculate exactly how far away it is using the laws of physics. The candle they chose was the type Ia supernova. This is a specific, violent death of a star. It happens in a binary system where a small, dense white dwarf star is stealing gas from a larger companion. The white dwarf is dead. It cannot fuse atoms. But as the stolen hydrogen piles up on its surface, its mass increases. There is a strict limit to how heavy a white dwarf can be, the Chandrasekhar limit. It is exactly 1.4 times the mass of the Sun. When the star eats enough gas to hit this limit, it can no longer support its own weight. It collapses, the pressure spikes. Carbon fusion ignites instantly throughout the entire star. It is a thermonuclear bomb the size of the Earth. Because the fuse is always lit at the exact same mass, the explosion is always the exact same brightness. It shines with the light of 5 billion suns. It is visible halfway across the universe. So, 2 teams of astronomers, one in California, one in Australia, began scanning the dark. They pointed their telescopes at the blackest patches of sky, watching thousands of galaxies, waiting for one of them to host a supernova. They found them, dozens of them. They measured how bright they were to get the distance, and they measured their redshift to get the speed. They plotted the points on a graph. They expected the line to curve downward, showing that the expansion was slowing down over time. They expected to see the gravity of the universe applying the brakes. But late in 1998, the data came back, and it didn't make sense. The distant supernovae were too dim. At first, the scientists thought there was a mistake. Maybe there was dust in space blocking the light. Maybe the telescopes were calibrated wrong. They checked everything. The data held. The only explanation was that the supernovae were farther away than they should be. The space between us and them had stretched more than expected. The universe wasn't slowing down. It was speeding up. Attachment, oh, attachment. It was as if you threw an apple into the air, watched it rise, saw it slow down for a moment, and then suddenly watched it ignite a rocket engine and shoot off into space faster and faster. The discovery shook the foundations of cosmology. It meant that gravity was not the dominant force on large scales. Something else was pushing back. Something was pressing on the accelerator pedal of the cosmos. We named it dark energy. But naming it is not the same as understanding it. What is it? We still do not know for sure, but we have a leading suspect. It takes us back to the vacuum we explored in the previous chapter. Remember that empty space is not empty. It is seething with quantum fields. Albert Einstein, decades earlier, had realized that space might have its own energy. When Einstein wrote his equations of general relativity, he found that the universe wanted to collapse. To fix this, he added a constant number to his math, the cosmological constant, represented by the Greek letter lambda, lambda toi. It represented a repulsive pressure inherent in empty space. When Hubble discovered expansion, Einstein deleted lambda, calling it his greatest blunder, but 1998 proved that his blunder was actually a prophecy. Dark energy seems to be the energy of space itself, and this gives it a terrifying property. Think about normal matter. If you have a box of gas and you expand the box to twice its size, the gas gets diluted. It becomes half as dense. The gravity it creates becomes weaker. Matter thins out as the universe grows. But dark energy is a property of the vacuum. If you expand the box, you create more vacuum. And because you have more vacuum, you have more dark energy. The density of dark energy remains constant. It does not dilute. This creates a runaway feedback loop. The universe expands, more space is created, more dark energy appears, the push gets stronger, the universe expands faster, even more space is created. It is a self-feeding engine. The more the universe grows, the faster it wants to grow. This force is currently winning the war. When the universe was young and small, matter was packed tight. Gravity was king. It pulled the gas together to form stars and galaxies. It built the cosmic web. But about 5 billion years ago, the universe grew large enough that the matter became too dilute. Gravity weakened. The constant pressure of dark energy took over. The universe shifted gears from deceleration to acceleration. Today, we can measure the composition of the universe with precision. Normal matter, stars, gas, US, is 5%. Dark matter, the invisible glue, is 27%. Dark energy, the expansion, is 68%. Attachment 1, attachment. Think about that. More than 2/3 of the energy in the universe is this mysterious pushing force. The darkness is mostly made of repulsion. What does this mean for the structure of the cosmos? It means the universe is being torn apart. Not violently, at least not yet, but gently and relentlessly. Gravity is a local force. It works best when things are close. Dark energy is a global force. It works best when things are far apart. Inside our solar system, gravity is overwhelmingly strong. Dark energy is negligible here. The Earth will not be pushed away from the Sun. Inside our galaxy, dark matter holds the stars together. The Milky Way will not be torn apart. Even inside our local cluster of galaxies, gravity wins. The Andromeda Galaxy is falling toward us, and we will merge. But look further out. Look at the vast voids between the galaxy clusters. There, gravity is weak, and there, dark energy is doing its work. It is stretching the voids. It is pushing the distant clusters away from us. The cosmic web is being stretched. The filaments of dark matter are being pulled taut. The knots of galaxies are becoming more isolated. This leads us to the ultimate fate of the dark, the Big Freeze. As the acceleration continues, the distant galaxies will move away from us faster and faster. Eventually, the space between us and them will be expanding faster than the speed of light. This creates a cosmic event horizon. Galaxies will cross this horizon and vanish. Their light will no longer be able to swim upstream against the flow of space to reach us. They will fade from view. One by one, the lights of the universe will go out. Billions of years from now, if there are astronomers on Earth or whatever planet we inhabit, they will look up and see a dark sky. They will see the stars of the Milky Way, bound to us by gravity. But beyond the edge of the galaxy, they will see nothing, just infinite empty blackness. They will have no evidence of the Big Bang. The cosmic microwave background will have been stretched into undetectable radio waves. They will have no evidence of the expansion. They will likely conclude that they are the entire universe, static, lonely, and eternal. We are living in a privileged time. We live in the brief window of history where the universe is transparent enough to see the distant past, but not yet expanded enough to erase the evidence. We can see the darkness for what it is. This picture of the future is melancholic. It is a story of isolation. But there's another way to look at it, a way that is more aligned with peace and rest. Think of the expansion not as a tearing, but as a breath. The universe began in a state of unimaginable tension, compressed, hot, frantic. It has spent 13 billion years exhaling. Dark energy is the mechanism of that exhalation. It is the universe making room. It is opening up. Entropy, the tendency of the universe to move from order to disorder, from concentration to diffusion, is the arrow of time. Dark energy is the wind that carries that arrow. The heat death of the universe, where all energy is spread out evenly and no more work can be done, sounds like a tragedy to us because we are engines. We need fuel. We need difference. But to the universe, it is equilibrium. It is the state of maximum rest. It is the calm lake after the storm. Dark energy is smoothing out the wrinkles of the Big Bang. It is diluting the violence. It is guiding the cosmos toward a state of perfect, cold, dark silence. There is a quiet majesty in this expansion. The force is everywhere. It is in this room right now. The space between the atoms of your body is expanding. The space between the nucleus and the electron is expanding. However, the electromagnetic force that holds your atoms together is 10 to the power of 40 times stronger than dark energy. You do not fly apart. You are held safe by the strong forces. But the space itself is trying. There's a tiny, tiny outward pressure in every inch of your being. It is the pressure of the void. It creates a tension, a balance. You are a localized knot of gravity and electromagnetism holding your shape against the tide of the expanding vacuum. You are a defiance of the drift. as you drift to sleep, imagine the scale of this force. It is invisible, it is undetectable to our senses, yet it is moving the largest objects in nature. It is pushing superclusters of galaxies, objects containing quadrillions of stars, as if they were feathers. It works in silence. There is no grinding of gears. There is no roar of engines, just the silent, geometric growth of the dark. This is the power of the empty space. It proves that the nothing is actually the strongest thing of all. Let us ponder the mystery of its strength. Why is it this strong? This is the cosmological constant problem. If we try to calculate the energy of the vacuum using quantum mechanics, summing up all the virtual particles we discussed in Chapter 3, we get a number, a huge number. If that number were true, the universe would have blown itself apart in a nanosecond. But the dark energy we observe is tiny. It is 10 to the power of 120 times smaller than the theory predicts. This discrepancy is the largest error in the history of physics. It means we are missing something fundamental. Perhaps the vacuum energy cancels itself out almost perfectly, leaving just a tiny sliver of a remainder. Perhaps there are other dimensions draining the energy away. Or perhaps, as some theories suggest, the value of dark energy is random. Maybe there are billions of universes in a multiverse. In most of them, dark energy is high, and no galaxies form. In some, it is negative, and the universe collapses. We live in this one, with this tiny, specific amount of dark energy, because it is the only kind of universe where life can evolve to notice it. The anthropic principle. We are here because the dark is gentle. If dark energy were slightly stronger, the sun would never have formed. The gas would have been dispersed before gravity could pull it together. The darkness would be absolute. We exist on the razor's edge of the expansion. So the accelerating darkness is not an enemy. It is a condition of our existence. It tuned the universe to the frequency of life. As we close this chapter, feel the space around you. It feels static, but your mind now knows the truth. It is dynamic. It is stretching. The room is getting bigger, infinitesimally. The galaxy is holding its breath, but the universe is exhaling. Allow yourself to exhale with it. Release the tension in your shoulders. Release the tension in your mind. Mimic the cosmos. Let your thoughts drift apart. Let the distance between your worries expand until they are pushed over the horizon. Let the mental noise redshift into silence. You are floating in a universe that is opening up. There is more room now than there was a moment ago. There is more potential. The pressure of the dark is a lifting force. It lightens the load of existence. In the next chapter, we will turn our attention to the things that hide in this expanding dark. We have looked at the vacuum, the matter, and the energy, but the darkness is also filled with activity, invisible signals, magnetic fields, ghost particles. We will look at the neutrino, the particle that passes through light years of lead. We will look at the magnetic fields that thread the galaxy like nerves. We will look at the cosmic web in detail, the grand architecture that connects the islands of light. We will see that the dark is not just a container. It is a machine with moving parts. But for now, rest in the expansion. The universe is growing. The darkness is deepening. The peace is spreading. You are a passenger on a world that is held safe by gravity, drifting through a sea that is expanding into forever. Sleep in the vast, open breath of the night. We have spent the night dismantling the idea of emptiness. We have seen that the vacuum is a boiling sea of quantum potential. We have seen that the black space between the stars is filled with the heavy, invisible scaffolding of dark matter and the expanding pressure of dark energy. We know now that the universe is not a void. It is a plenum. It is full. But there's another layer to this fullness, a layer of activity that is constant, frantic, and completely invisible to our eyes. If we could switch our vision, if we could tune our eyes to see particles instead of photons, or magnetic fields instead of colors, the darkness would vanish. The night sky would not be black. It would be a chaotic, glowing, streaming web of forces. It would look less like an empty room and more like the inside of a living cell, or the neural network of a brain. Tonight, we will tune into these hidden frequencies. We will watch the ghost particles that pass through the Earth as if it were smoke. We will trace the invisible magnetic nerves that thread the galaxy. We will listen to the radio whispers of the deep past. We will explore the active architecture of the dark. Let us begin with the ghosts, the neutrinos. In the time it takes you to hear this sentence, trillions of neutrinos have passed through your body. They came from the sun. They traveled 93 million miles at almost the speed of light. They punched through the roof of your house, through your skin, through your DNA, through the mattress, through the floor, through the crust of the earth, through the molten iron core, out the other side and back into space. To them, you do not exist. The Earth does not exist. Matter is mostly empty space, and neutrinos are so small and interact so weakly with other particles that they slip through the gaps without touching anything. To a neutrino, a block of lead a light year thick is as transparent as a pane of glass. This means that the darkness is not dark to them. It is open, and it is crowded. The universe is filled with a cosmic neutrino background. Just like the microwave background of light, there is a background of these ghost particles left over from the Big Bang. There are about 300 of them in every cubic centimeter of space. They are relics of the first second of creation. Before the universe was transparent to light, it was transparent to neutrinos. They broke free when the cosmos was only 1 second old. They are everywhere. You are swimming in a sea of ancient ghosts. They are the most abundant matter particle in the universe, outnumbering electrons and protons by 1 billion to 1. Think of the dark not as an absence, but as a highway. It is a busy thoroughfare for these silent travelers. They carry information from the hearts of stars. When a star explodes as a supernova, 99% of the energy is released not as light, but as neutrinos. The flash of light we see is just a tiny side effect. The real event is a neutrino bomb. In 1987, a star exploded in the Large Magellanic Cloud, a neighbor of our galaxy. Detectors deep underground in Japan and the US, vast tanks of pure water lined with the light sensors, saw a sudden spike. They detected 19 neutrinos. 19 out of the quintillions that passed through. But those 19 were enough to confirm our theories of stellar death. They arrived hours before the light did. The ghosts brought the news of the death before the flash was seen. So, the darkness is filled with messengers. It is a communication network. Now, let us switch our vision again. Let us look at the forces. We think of space as neutral, but it is threaded with tension. It is filled with magnetic fields. On Earth, we know magnetism from the compass needle pointing north. We know the magnet sticking to the fridge. These are local fields, but the galaxy has a magnetic field of its own. It is weak, 1,000,000 times weaker than the Earth's field, but it is vast. It stretches for 100,000 light years. If you could see magnetism, the galaxy would look like a giant fingerprint. Swirling lines of force follow the spiral arms. They twist and loop through the gas clouds. They act like the ribs of the galaxy, giving it structure. These fields are crucial for the birth of stars. Inside a dark, molecular cloud, gravity tries to crush the gas to make a star, but the magnetic field fights back. The gas particles are charged. They are stuck to the magnetic lines like beads on a string. They cannot easily cross the lines. They have to slide along them. This slows down the collapse. It regulates the birth rate of stars. Without magnetic fields, the galaxy would have converted all its gas into stars billions of years ago. It would have burned out. The magnetic fields, the invisible tension in the dark, kept the galaxy alive. They are the preservatives of the cosmos. These fields also bridge the gaps between galaxies. We have detected intergalactic magnetic fields, threads of force connecting galaxy clusters across millions of light years of empty void. Where did they come from? Were they forged in the Big Bang? Or were they pumped out by ancient black holes? We don't know, but they tell us that the void has a grain. It has an orientation. Space has a texture. Traveling through the dark is not like traveling through a vacuum. It is like traveling through a spider web. You are constantly crossing these invisible silk threads. Now, let us listen. Our eyes are blind to the dark, but our antennas are not. If we look at the sky and radio waves, the darkness disappears completely. To a radio telescope, the sky is blazing with activity. Look at the center of a distant galaxy. In visible light, it might look like a quiet, glowing ball, but in radio, we see jets. Massive beams of plasma shooting out from the central black hole at near the speed of light. They punch through the galaxy and erupt into intergalactic space. They form giant lobes, clouds of radio-bright gas that dwarf the galaxy itself. These lobes are invisible to the eye, but they are there. They are the largest single structures made by individual objects in the universe. Imagine a fountain. The water shoots up, the jet, and then splashes down into a pool, the lobe. The pool of radio energy in these lobes can remain active for millions of years. It is a fossil of the black hole's feeding frenzy. When we scan the dark sky, we see millions of these radio sources. They look like distinct stars, but they are actually distant galaxies shouting in the radio spectrum. We also hear the synchrotron radiation. When an electron spirals around a magnetic field line, it screams. It emits radio waves. Because the galaxy is full of magnetic fields and full of cosmic rays, fast electrons, the whole galaxy glows in radio. There is a galactic haze. The space between the stars is humming. It is a static hiss that never stops. If you tune an old analog TV to a channel with no station, About 1% of the static you see is coming from the cosmic microwave background, but some of it is coming from this galactic synchrotron noise. You are watching the electrons of the interstellar medium spiral in the dark. Now, let us zoom out to the largest scale of all. Let us look at the architecture of the darkness. We have spoken of the cosmic web, the lattice of dark matter, but let us look at the negative space of that web, the holes in the net, the voids. These are the true titans of the dark. They are vast, spherical regions of emptiness, hundreds of millions of light years across. The Bhuta's void, for example. It is a sphere of space 250 million light years in diameter. If the Milky Way were in the center of the Bhuta's void, we would not have known other galaxies existed until the 1960s. The nearest neighbors would be so far away that they would be too dim to see with early telescopes. We would have thought we were truly alone in an infinite black ocean. These voids are not entirely empty. They contain a few lonely dwarf galaxies, void galaxies. Imagine living on a planet in a void galaxy. The night sky would be terrifyingly black. You would see the stars of your own tiny island, but beyond them, nothing. No Andromeda, no Virgo cluster, just the absolute crushing depth of the empty universe. But the voids are active players. They are expanding. Because they are emptier than the rest of the universe, they have less gravity. The dense regions, the web filaments, pull matter away from the voids. So the voids act like bubbles. They grow, they push the galaxies against each other. In a way, the voids are the engines of structure. They are the repellers. By emptying themselves out, they force the matter to congregate in the walls and filaments. They scour the universe clean, concentrating the interesting stuff into thin sheets. Dark energy works hand in hand with the voids. Dark energy pushes from the inside. It inflates the bubbles. So the structure of the universe, the beautiful sponge-like web, is the result of a collaboration between the pool of dark matter and the push of the voids. The darkness shapes the light. This brings us to a philosophical realization. We usually think of objects as the primary reality. A star is a thing, a planet is a thing, space is just the gap between things. But in the cosmic web, the gaps are the dominant feature. The voids take up most of the volume. The matter is just a thin coating on the edges of the nothingness. We are the boundary condition of the void. As we drift deeper into this idea, think about the atmosphere of the night. We are protected by layers of activity. The solar wind, a stream of particles from the sun, blows a bubble around the solar system, the heliosphere. This bubble pushes back against the interstellar medium. It keeps the galactic wind out. Inside this bubble, the Earth has its own bubble, the magnetosphere, the magnetic field generated by our core. It pushes back against the solar wind. So we are in a bubble, inside a bubble, inside a void, inside a web. The darkness is not a monolith. It is a series of shells, a Russian nesting doll of protective fields. Each layer is invisible, each layer is silent, but each layer is fighting to keep us safe. If the Earth's magnetic field failed, the solar wind would strip away our atmosphere. If the sun's magnetic field failed, the cosmic rays would sterilize the solar system. The empty space is actually a series of shields. The activity of the dark is a form of immunity. Let us rest in the safety of these shields. Visualize the invisible lines of force arching over the Earth, like giant protective ribs made of magnetism. They catch the radiation and funnel it to the poles, creating the auroras. The northern lights are the only time we see the invisible activity of the dark. We see the collision of the shield and the wind. We see the sky burning with the energy of the void. But mostly, the work is done in the dark, quietly, efficiently. You are being protected right now. The darkness outside your window is not a threat. It is a fortress. And deep down, beneath the fields and the particles, there is the quantum layer we spoke of, the spin networks of space-time. Some theories, loop quantum gravity, suggest that space itself is made of tiny interlocking loops. It is like a chainmail fabric. This means the darkness has a grain. It is pixelated. If this is true, then even the concept of distance is an illusion created by the huge number of these loops. You are not separated from the stars by a vast distance. You are connected to them by a vast number of tiny links. The universe is a single connected object. The dark is just the connective tissue. Imagine the universe as a brain. The galaxies are the neurons. The filaments of the cosmic web are the axons. The dark matter and dark energy are the glial cells, the support structure that feeds and holds the network. We are living inside a mind. The activity of the dark is the thinking of the cosmos, the flow of neutrinos, the pulse of gravitational waves, the expansion of the voids. These are the thoughts of the universe. They are slow thoughts. A single thought might take 1 billion years to cross a cluster, but they are thoughts nonetheless. We are the tiny, self-aware sparks within this colossal consciousness. As you lie in the dark, you are syncing with this mind. Your brain produces brain waves, electrical activity. The Earth produces electromagnetic waves. The Sun produces neutrinos. The galaxy produces magnetic fields. The universe produces gravitational waves. It is a symphony of waves, a harmony of invisible motion. You don't need to hear it to be part of it. You are vibrating with it. Let the knowledge of this activity soothe you. You are not floating in a dead, cold nothing. You are floating in a warm, active, protective something. The darkness is alive. In the final chapter, we will bring all these threads together. We will look at the meaning of the dark. We will look at the peace it offers. We will see that the darkness is the necessary condition for light, for life, and for rest. We will end our journey not with a scientific formula, but with a feeling, the feeling of being held by the night. But for now, let the invisible particles pass through you. Let the neutrinos wash away the tension. Let the magnetic fields guide your dreams. Let the expansion of the voids create space in your mind. You are safe in the active void. Sleep in the hum of the universe. We have reached the end of our journey into the night. We have traveled from the surface of the Earth, past the moon and the planets, out of the solar system, and into the deep intergalactic void. We have peeled back the layers of reality, one by one. We started with the assumption that the darkness was empty, a mere absence of light. But we have learned that this is an illusion. The darkness is the most full thing in existence. It is a seething ocean of quantum potential. It is a heavy scaffolding of invisible matter holding the galaxies in its arms. It is a pressure of expanding energy, pushing the universe toward its destiny. It is a highway for ghosts and a web of magnetic tension. The darkness is not the gap between the notes, it is the music itself. The stars are merely the highlights, the brief flashes of decoration on a structure that is vast, ancient, and predominantly dark. The universe is a creature of the night. Tonight, in this final chapter, we will stop analyzing. We will stop dissecting the void with our mathematics and our telescopes. Instead, we will simply be in it. We will accept the darkness for what it truly is, the ultimate resting place. We will find the peace that lies at the heart of the empty space. Let us reconsider the meaning of light and dark. In our daily lives, we are biased. We are creatures of the sun. We wake when it rises. We sleep when it sets. We associate light with activity, with knowledge, with safety. We associate darkness with the unknown, with cold, with cessation. But the universe tells a different story. In the cosmos, light is the anomaly. Light is the result of stress. A star shines because it is being crushed. Gravity is squeezing the atoms so hard that they have no choice but to fuse and release photons. The light is the scream of the satyr as it fights against the collapse. A quasar shines because matter is falling into a black hole, ripping itself apart in a frenzy of friction. A nebula glows because it is being bombarded by radiation. Light is the symptom of violence. It is the sign of energy being spent, of order being broken down, of high-pressure systems trying to equalize. The dark, on the other hand, is the state of relaxation. When the star runs out of fuel, it stops shining, it cools, it fades into a black dwarf, it returns to the dark. When the gas cloud cools, it stops glowing, it settles into a quiet, dark nebula. The darkness is the equilibrium. It is the state that matter seeks. Everything in the universe is trying to shed its energy, to radiate its heat away, to become cool, dark, and still. This is the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy increases. Energy spreads out. The universe is constantly trying to return to the peace of the void. So, when you turn off the lights in your room, you're not stepping away from reality. You are aligning yourself with the fundamental direction of the cosmos. You are participating in the great cooling. You are letting go of the stress of the light and entering the peace of the dark. Think of the dark as a resource. It is a reservoir of calm. We spoke of the heat sink. Life requires a temperature difference. We take in high-energy light from the sun, use it to build our bodies and think our thoughts, and then we emit low-energy heat into the dark. If the sky were not dark, if it were hot and bright, we could not cool down. We would die of heat death instantly. The darkness sucks the entropy out of us. It absorbs our waste heat. It cleanses us. The cold vacuum of space is the ultimate air conditioner, keeping the engine of life from overheating. We owe our existence to the capacity of the dark to absorb energy. Now imagine the scale of this reservoir. The visible universe is 93 billion light-years across. Most of that volume is the voids, the super-empty bubbles we discussed in the last chapter. These voids are the lungs of the universe. They are expanding. They are breathing in the dark energy and breathing out space. Imagine yourself floating in the center of the Bhuta's void. There is no star for millions of light years. The silence is absolute. The stillness is profound. But it is not a lonely feeling. It is a feeling of spaciousness. On Earth, we are crowded. We are constantly bombarded by information, by noise, by gravity, by other people. We are cramped. But in the void, there is room, infinite room. There is no pressure. There is no demand. There's just the long, slow drift of potential. Allow your mind to mimic the shape of the void. Visualize your thoughts as galaxies, bright, frantic knots of activity. Now, push them apart. Let the space between the thoughts grow. Create a mind void. Let the distance between one worry and the next become 1,000,000 light years. Let the silence rush in to fill the gap. The dark energy of your mind is the power of release. Push the noise away. Expand the quiet. You are creating a microcosm of the universe inside your head. You are becoming mostly empty space, and that is a good thing. It is in the empty space that peace lives. Now, recall the invisible structure. You are not just floating in nothingness. You are held. Remember, dark matter, the ghost skeleton. Even in the dark, there is gravity. There is a connection. You are part of a massive, invisible web. Feel the gravity of the earth pulling you into your bed. That is the local knot in the web. But feel the subtle, expansive hold of the galaxy. The dark matter halo is cupping the solar system in its hand. It is protecting us from drifting into the intergalactic deep. The darkness is a container. It holds you safe. And deeper still, remember the vacuum, the quantum foam. The space right next to your skin is bubbling with energy. The nothing is supporting you. Every atom in your body is 99.9% empty space. If you remove the space from all the atoms in all the humans on Earth, the entire population would fit inside a sugar cube. This means that you are mostly dark. You are not a solid object moving through the dark. You are the dark, organized into a pattern of temporary solidity. The vacuum inside you is continuous with the vacuum outside you. There is no barrier. Your skin is just a cloud of electrons where the field is slightly more intense. You are continuous with the cosmos. You are woven from the same cloth as the night sky. This dissolves the fear of the dark. How can you be afraid of what you are? The darkness is your own substance. It is your home. Consider the passage of time in the dark. In the light, time moves fast. We measure it in seconds, minutes, hours. We rush. We are late. But in the cosmic dark, time slows down. We measure it in eons, in billions of years. The universe is not in a hurry. The galaxies are drifting apart at a leisurely pace. The stars are burning their fuel with patient frugality. The black holes are evaporating over timescales that defy mathematics. When you enter the dark of sleep, you are stepping out of human time and into cosmic time. You are entering the deep time. In this state, there is no urgency. The deadline does not exist. The schedule dissolves. You have all the time in the world. You have the time of the protons, which live for 10 to the power of 34 years. You have the time of the dark energy, which pushes forever. Let the rhythm of your breath match the rhythm of this deep time. Inhale, the universe expands. Exhale, the universe cools. Slow, steady, eternal. We spoke of the dark era, the far future. Billions of years from now, the last star will burn out. The last black hole will decay. The universe will be a sea of photons and neutrinos, cooling toward absolute zero. It will be dark. It will be empty. To a frantic mind, this sounds lonely, but to a peaceful mind, this is the ultimate goal. It is nirvana, the blowing out of the candle. It is the state where nothing ever needs to be done again. The struggle of existence is over. The equations are balanced. The tension is released. We are not there yet. We are in the vibrant youth of the universe, but we carry the seed of that future peace inside us. Every night, when we sleep, we practice for the dark era. We turn off our own lights. We shut down our own engines. We enter a state of personal heat death. And in the morning, we are reborn. We are reignited like a fresh star. But the rest is just as important as the activity. The dark is the battery charger. So do not resist the dark. Do not fight the heaviness of your eyelids. That heaviness is the gravity of the universe calling you back to the center, calling you back to the source. Let us do a final scan of the reality we have constructed. Visualize the room you are in. The walls are just atoms, mostly empty space. The air is just molecules, mostly empty space. See the space between the air molecules. It is glowing with virtual particles, a faint quantum shimmer. See the neutrinos streaming through the ceiling, falling like silent rain, passing through you, washing you clean. See the gravity waves rippling gently through the floor, stretching you and squeezing you by less than the width of a proton, rocking you in the cradle of space-time. See the dark matter halo outside, holding the Earth in its orbit around the galaxy, a giant invisible hand of protection. See the dark energy pushing the distant galaxies away, clearing the sky, making more room for you to dream. You are at the center of this majestic system. You are the observer. You are the consciousness that the universe has grown in order to look at itself. And now, the universe wants to sleep. The eyes of the cosmos are closing. The telescopes are shutting down. The data processing is pausing. The questions are being put aside. There is nothing left to solve tonight. The mystery of the dark is not a problem to be fixed. It is a pillow to rest your head on. It is soft. It is deep. It is endless. Let yourself sink into it. Imagine you are an astronaut, untethered. You push off from the space station. You drift away. The Earth gets smaller. The sun gets smaller. The stars get dimmer. You are floating into the great void. There is no up. There is no down. There is no weight. There is only the sensation of floating. The darkness wraps around you like a velvet blanket. It is warm, not cold, because it is filled with the microwave background. It is humming with the song of the vacuum. You are perfectly safe. There's nothing to hit. There's nothing to fall into. You are simply existing. Drifting. The expansion of the universe is carrying you. You are riding the wave of dark energy. You are going further and further out into the quiet places where no star has ever shone. And in this silence you find yourself. The noise of the day is gone. The noise of the world is gone. Even the noise of your own thoughts is fading, redshifted into silence. There's only the breath. In and out. Expansion and contraction. Creation and rest. The dark is not empty. It is full of peace. It is the oldest thing there is. Before the stars, there was the dark. After the stars, there will be the dark. It is the eternal constant. Trust it. Let the darkness enter your mind. Let it turn off the switches. One by one, the lights in the city of your brain are going out. The visual cortex, dark, and the auditory cortex, quiet. The logic centers, asleep. Only the core remains, the pilot light of consciousness, glowing softly in the void. You are a single atom drifting in the great expanse. You are one with the vacuum. You are the dark. Sleep now. The universe is holding you. The gravity is anchoring you. The energy is flowing through you. There is nothing to fear. The night is your friend. Drift. Float. Rest. Good night.